Hey, are you thinking about moving to Las Vegas or Henderson here in Nevada? And maybe you're in that discovery stage and you want to know what are the pros and cons of moving to the area? I want to really deep dive and know what it's all about. I'm going to have you covered in this video. I'm going to go through many of the pros and cons that I've discovered since moving here. And I'm going to start right now. The first pro for me is going to be the weather. The weather, obviously, it's what brings a lot of people here in general, is the weather, especially if you're moving from some of the colder states, then it's definitely going to be an attractive factor for you. Obviously, moving from the UK, it's definitely a different weather than I'm used to. So we have, an average temperature yearly of about 80 degrees. We have probably around about 300 days of sunshine. Yeah, we do get some rain every now and then, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit later. But in general, the weather here is really settled as well. There's no real natural disasters to worry about, which is also a big benefit of living here. And there's just something to be said, I think, about when you open the blinds in the morning or when you step outside in the morning and you're greeted by a blue sky. I think it just does something to your mood. I don't know if that's scientific or if that's a placebo. If you do know if that is scientific, then definitely mention that in the comments below. But I just find when I look out in the morning and I see a blue sky, it just automatically just lifts my mood and sets my day and just everything feels right. When I looked out in the UK and it was gloomy and cloudy, it just I don't know. I don't know if I was more miserable in the UK and I'm more happy here. I don't know what it is. You'll have to probably ask some of my people from back home in Birmingham. But in general, I just feel like the blue skies definitely help lift the mood. It's like a natural upper. And some of the sunsets that we get here as well, the sunrises and sunsets that we get here because of our weather, they absolutely look gorgeous, especially with the way they come across the mountains. I really do love the mountain views, but when you're seeing the sun come across the mountains as well, it's fantastic. So in general, I think the weather here is a big pro. Some people actually end up getting a condo here and just coming down when their home state is too cold, they'll come down here and spend a few months here at a time as well. So I can definitely see the benefit in that. And the weather, as I said, is for me now, looking at it, it's definitely one of the huge pros. The next pro is going to be probably the outdoor recreation and amenities and also the natural scenery. I mean, one of the things I didn't think about Vegas before I moved here was some of the natural scenery we have. It's beautiful, it's breathtaking. And yeah, there is a lot of desert and brown landscaping, but I sort of look above that. I was asked that question actually recently. I had a client here in town who was asking me how I adjusted from the UK to here. When I'm in the UK, everything is green and lush, and then in Vegas and Henderson, obviously it's quite brown and desert-like. And I told them what I'm going to tell you. I just changed my perspective and I looked up, and when I see those mountain views, whether that's with the sun bouncing off the mountain, whether that's at the moment with some of those mountains being snow-capped, I mean, the novelty of that just does not lose itself on me. I absolutely love the mountain views. I love what they do to the scenery. I never had that growing up where I was, so I definitely enjoy it now. And I just don't look at the brown and the desert, and I change and I look at the mountain views. So I think we've got a lot of natural scenery here. Then coupled with that, obviously there's so many great things to do outdoors. If you like walking and hiking, we have so many great hikes to go on, whether that's in the Black Mountains, whether that's in the Spring Mountain Range, whether that's in Red Rock Conservation Area, whether you want to go to Mount Charleston as well. There's so many great natural things to do outside and enjoy nature. And then we have so many parks and green spaces as well. It's again, something I didn't think you're going to have too much of in the Vegas area, but there's so many parks, and all the parks have different things and different amenities in there, different types of sports for you to enjoy as a family. You can also then go to Lake Las Vegas, and there's lots to do on the lake, or there's Lake Mead and lots to do there as well. There's lots of great national parks that are surrounding us as well. So if that's what you want to go and enjoy, it's very easy to get to. So I think when you couple all that in, I think the outdoor amenities and the natural scenery we have, I think for me, that's definitely a big pro. The next one is, an obvious one for a lot of people. It's what sort of starts the cogs with moving to Vegas and starts the ball rolling. And that's no state income tax. And it's something that is a huge benefit to living in the area. If you're moving from an area of the country where there's huge state income taxes, whether that's California, whether that's New York, New Jersey, Oregon, just to name a few, then you are going to benefit if you can somehow keep your salary or whatever your source of income is, but by living here, then you're going to save on there's no state income tax. That's a huge saving, and that improves the quality of life as well. And in general, with that, obviously you're going to have some savings, a lot more that you can, do with your money, whether that's taking extra vacations or invest in it. Whatever it is, it's better in your pocket than in the IRS's pocket, that's for sure. And as I said, it's what starts the ball rolling for a lot of people thinking about moving here. One of the big things is always going to be no state income tax, and we're one of the few states that still have that. We get our taxes from other places, sorry, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit later. But for me, it's a huge benefit. I definitely love this time of year. As I'm filming this, it's tax season, so I definitely love skipping past the no state part or the state income part and not having to worry about it, just the federal side. So I think it's a huge factor. And when you couple that in then as well with our property taxes are also amongst the lowest in the country as well. I think we're a very tax-friendly state, and no inheritance tax as well. There's very good tax breaks given to businesses as well in the city. So all in all, I think we are a very tax-friendly city, and that's what brings a lot of people to think about relocating here. The next reason is going to be the diversity. There's such a great melting pot of cultures and backgrounds within this city. It's incredible, and it's so easy for a lot of people to feel at home automatically because there's just so many different people from so many different walks of life, and it's beautiful to see it all come together. I definitely enjoy it. Obviously, I'm a parent as well, so from my side, having biracial kids, a biracial family, it's great to know that they're living in a city where they can go and experience things, whether that's, we want to sometimes go maybe to an English restaurant and have some English food. I know English food gets a bad reputation, and some of you guys think it's quite tasteless, but I can tell you, when English food is done correctly, it can taste pretty good. It's great to know that they can go and have that side. And also then on the Filipino side, on my wife's side, there's so many great Filipino restaurants, there's so many great Filipino stores. I love getting sisig from one of our local stores, but for the kids to be able to try those sorts of cultures is fantastic. There's some great authentic Mexican food, great authentic Korean food. I mean, there's so many people that have moved to this city and contributed to that cultural diversity. It's fantastic. And I often get asked a lot of times when, you guys are reaching out, you'll always say, where is like one of the most diverse areas? I want to feel somewhere where I'm going to fit in. I'm being honest with you, most parts of Vegas and Henderson are going to be quite diverse, and it's very easy to fit in the city. So I think it's a huge plus, and I think it sometimes gets overlooked with the whole other things that we're going to mention on this list. I think the cultural diversity is a huge thing, and I think it's great as a parent bringing kids up in an area that is culturally diversified, whether that's the exposure they get in schools and not everyone looking the same and acting the same and speaking the same, or whether that's just in your day-to-day life. I think it's fantastic. I think it opens a lot more doors for a lot of people, and I think this world is a small place as it is, so why not enjoy as much of different cultures and different traditions as possible, and try and stay friendly and everyone getting along. And yeah, I definitely enjoy that side here. The next pro is going to be delicious dining options. Obviously, I touched on some of the cultural stuff, and obviously there's food that has been brought to the area because of that, but there's so many great options for eating. I mean, there's just so many great restaurants within town. Obviously, the Strip, you have some great options on the Strip and some great celebrity restaurants, where that's going to be Gordon Ramsay or some of the other Michelin star restaurants on the Strip. But even if you don't go to the Las Vegas Strip, wherever your community is, I can guarantee you're going to have a feast of different great dining options, whether that's some of the chain restaurants or some of the more unique options. There's just so much great food here. It's unbelievable. Some of the great restaurants that you'll just randomly drive by and maybe just pop in on an off chance, maybe have low expectations and be blown away by something off the menu. There's not too many places that I've tried their food and walked out thinking, you know what, that wasn't really so good. That wasn't really worth the hype. I've been quite happy with a lot of the food here. So I think our delicious dining options, not just on the Strip, but also off Strip, definitely is going to be one of the big pros. If you have a favorite restaurant in Vegas or Henderson, pop it down in the comments below, because I love to try some new restaurants as well and add some new recommendations when I have people come into town as well. So definitely let me know in the comments below. The next pro is going to be obvious because we are the entertainment capital of the world. It's going to be exceptional entertainment. Obviously, the Strip alone, you have so many there's great shows, there's great casinos, there's great concerts, there's great any type of entertainment, whatever your form of entertainment is. Obviously, if you're looking for a great night out, then you can go and do something great on the Strip. We sometimes probably go less frequently than maybe when I first moved over here, but we still sometimes go and try and catch a show if there's something that we want to see. Obviously, Cirque du Soleil is huge. There's various different Cirque du Soleil shows here. We went to see Cat, and it was amazing. It blew my mind. It was some great, obviously the great acrobatic side, but then it was also a really good story to it as well. I obviously read great reviews, but I still tried to have low expectations going in, and I loved it. It was fantastic. We also went to see Ed Sheeran at the Allegiant Stadium, which was a really great show. And there's always great artists, great musical artists that are residents here as well. Obviously Adele, even though her tickets are, you probably have to sell a kidney or two to try and get her tickets. She's here at the moment. There's been great artists like Bruno Mars here as well, Britney Spears, and you can probably name so many of them as well. So I think, obviously some of that entertainment is what brings a lot of people here to, as a vacation. But also when you're living here, you can easily, go and see a show, go and see a concert. It's so easy to go and do during the week as well. If they are on during the week and there's not as many people here, it's even better to do. So definitely, I think I couldn't do a list of pros without mentioning the entertainment. Let me know your favorite show as well that you've seen in Vegas in the comments below as well, so I can check that one out as well. The next pro is going to be the professional sports teams, and this is something that's grown, especially in recent years. And maybe Vegas probably lacks that historical of sports teams and having a culture where a lot of people have grown up and that's been their sports team, like a lot of states. But definitely they're doing everything they can to attract some sports teams and professional sports teams to the city. Obviously, we have the Raiders, and although they didn't get to the playoffs again this year, it's still great having them here. Hopefully one day the team can do well and benefit the great stadium that they already have in place. We also have the Golden Knights, who won the Stanley Cup. Not this drinking Stanley Cup, which there is a big buzz about at the moment, but the Stanley Cup in hockey, which was fantastic for such a new franchise as well when you think about it. Fantastic. We also have the Las Vegas Aces, who are the WNBA double champions now, which is also amazing. There's going to be the MLB team coming here as well from Oakland, and obviously they've had a few different homes, and hopefully they make Vegas their home, the Oakland A's. Their stadium's going to be built on the site of the Tropicana, so that's going to be fantastic. I look forward to seeing how their stadium progresses. Again, another sports team brought to the city. I know there's always rumors about an NBA franchise coming here as well, so hopefully that can happen. That'll be fantastic. I'd love to see an MLS soccer team here. That'll be great for me from a personal point of view. We've obviously had Formula One here the last year, and yeah, it was quite disruptive for the city. There's no denying that, especially in and around that area. But it's still great having the eyes of the world in a one-off event like that on the city, which is fantastic. And it definitely made some people rich. I didn't see any of the money funnel down to most people in the area, but definitely some people got some money out of it. And then obviously we have the likes of UFC and boxing here regularly as well. So if you're into sports, Vegas is going to be a hub for sports for many, many years to come. So I think, again, professional sports, and then as a parent, my kids being able to see these sports live and inspire them. Like I was inspired to play football when I was younger, or soccer, should I say, when I was younger from watching it live. I mean, it's great as a parent to, they can have these role models that they can aspire to. Not so much always what they do off the pitch, but certainly what they do on the pitch from a sports point of view. It's fantastic, really. The next pro is going to be travel connections. It's so easy to travel from Vegas, whether you want to drive to California and the beaches in California, or LA or Disneyland. It's probably going to be about a 4.5 hour drive. To drive to Utah, Salt Lake City, going to be probably about a 5-hour drive. Phoenix, Arizona is also not a massive drive away. But also flying, wherever you live in the Vegas and Henderson area, because of where the airport is located and the way our freeway system is, getting to the airport is not going to really be shouldn't be more than about a 30-minute drive. And then obviously that's one of the busiest airports in the whole of the country. So getting a flight wherever you want to go, internationally or nationally, is going to be very, very easy. Sometimes it can be very cost effective as well. So I think if you're looking to travel more and where you're living now is maybe too far to go to the airport, or maybe you have to get multiple flights and it's a bit inconvenient, I think Vegas offers a great option for those of you who love to travel. I know I love to travel. I think Vegas offers that great option and that ease of being able to travel wherever you want to do. Even if you want to a flight to Florida and take a cruise. I mean, it's not hard to do from here. So I definitely think travel connections is a big thing. My brother-in-law wants to move down from Canada, and one of the things he loves to do is travel, and he can't wait to move here because he can see how easy it is to fly out of Vegas. So, obviously once you time it right and it's not on a holiday weekend or when we have one of the big events, getting in and out of our airport is very easy. So definitely travel connections is going to be another big pro. The next pro is going to be job opportunities. Obviously, we have lots of jobs in the hospitality industry with so many casinos, so many restaurants, and so many types of entertainment and retail as well that goes alongside that. So anything in the hospitality industry is going to be so many great options for you. Also in the medical side as well, there's some great options there if you are looking to be employed in that industry. Teachers, we're always looking for great teachers in the district, although I think they are still underpaid. Although they recently managed to get a pay rise, I still think they are underpaid for the job that they do. I think our school district is probably a bit underfunded, but we're going to touch on that in some of the cons. And then also the city is trying to move away and trying to diversify the workforce. So they're trying to attract more of the tech companies, especially from California. The city got hit quite hard during COVID, and obviously everything shut down and there was no money coming in so much because the tourists weren't coming in. And it's no surprise because that's where all of our tax money comes from, is really from the tourists. We survive on the tourists, and that's where our tax breaks comes from because that generates so much tax for the state. But then the cities sort of realized, oh wow, we can't rely on that. So they've been very aggressive trying to attract a lot of the tech companies. There's been quite a few little startups that I've read about that have been moving here, but I think once they land that big egg, that first big egg, I think many more are going to follow, especially when you couple it with California and everything going on there. And as I said, this city is not going to stop until it does attract it. There's also talks of Mark Wahlberg and having a film studio here, having it like a mini Hollywood, which is going to be fantastic as well. So all of these options are going to potentially open up in the years to come. And I think that's going to bring so much more job opportunities, so much opportunities for those of you who are looking to relocate here. So I think I definitely have to have that as a pro. And then the final pro for me is going to be growth and development. The city is actively developing. It's a city that isn't finished by any means, whether that's more residential, whether that's some of the great commercial opportunities that are being brought here, or even if that's just the investments in the infrastructure and the roads and the utilities and the public transport, which is a real, we're going to mention that in the cons as well. All of this is constantly evolving, and the city is constantly evolving, and the city doesn't look like it did 5 years ago, doesn't look like what it did 10 years ago. There's been a huge evolution in that time, and the city is continuing to evolve as well. And again, moving here, and if you're thinking from an investment point of view, I think that only speaks great things for the future. So I think by far, I've probably left one of the most important ones to the end, but I think that growth and development is a really big pro, and it's something I'm very excited about. Some great things that are lined up. The high-speed train link from California to Vegas is going to be fantastic once it gets finished. Hopefully it gets finished. Once it gets finished, I think it's going to be fantastic, and it's maybe going to make commuting a lot more easier from maybe California to Vegas. And I mean, obviously we've all been stuck in traffic sometimes going from Vegas to California or vice versa. So I'm definitely going to enjoy that. And there's so many other great things that are happening that it's just great to see what the future holds for Vegas. And I just can't wait to see how this city that I call home, that I feel fortunate to call home, I just can't wait to see how it develops. Okay guys, we're going to move on to the cons shortly. But before I do, just if you are enjoying this video, please drop me a like. Also, give me a comment and let me know what your favorite pro is so far. And also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate you helping me get to 1,000 subscribers. Definitely helps with the YouTube gods, putting me in front of more people. And if you are thinking about moving to Vegas or Henderson, please get in touch on the details below. However you're comfortable, whenever you're ready, and I'd love to help you on your move here. So the first con is going to be the school district. As a parent, I mean, I have to have this as the first con. It was one of the things that was really alarming to me when I was looking at moving here. Was the Clark County School District. The CCSD is always ranked as one of the worst school districts in the country. I think it's criminally underfunded. I think they need a lot more funding given into it, especially when you figure out how many taxes and how much taxes, we're getting from the casinos and all of that side of things. So I think it does need more funding 100%, and the teachers there who are working phenomenally hard, they need a lot more support as well. So I think the school district as itself can be a con. It is the 5th largest school district as well, though, in the country. So there are a high amount of schools and students within that area. There's going to be schools that bring it down as well. And that's what I was going to say. The next point that I was going to mention on the school district is when you do your research, which is what I did before I moved here. I looked up schools on greatschools.org. Then I went on to the CCSD, sort of seeing where the zoning was for those schools. You actually realize there are some really good schools. You just have to find them. They're not just going to jump out at you. You just have to make sure you do that research and that due diligence. If you do want to talk more about the schools, again, just reach out to me on my details there below, and I would love to help you. I can, we can jump on a Zoom call, we can share screen, and I can sort of go through it all with you there, and we can help you find a good school for you and your family. Because I know how important schooling is, and I know when I was starting my process of where we were going to be living, I was like, oh my gosh, this school district sucks. We're probably going to have to homeschool all of our kids. All 4 kids is what we had at that point. We've obviously since had a baby who we ironically are going to look at homeschooling, but that's nothing against the schools. Our other kids are thriving in school at the moment. All 4 of them are in elementary school. But you just have to do that research. So when you do that research, you'll see where the good schools are. Quite often it's where the good neighborhoods are as well, so there's no surprise there. But from an outset, I think the Clark County School District could be one of the biggest cons of living in Las Vegas. The next con is going to be the weather. I mean, I've already talked about the weather as a pro, and it is a pro, but it's also a con. Our summers get really, really hot. We're talking well above triple digits. We're talking 115 degrees most days in July and August. It's not a humid heat, which I definitely am happy about. It'll be even more of a bigger con if it was a humid heat. It's more like whenever if you're baking a cake, say in your oven, if you were to open that oven after it's been baking for a while and you get this heat that just attacks you as soon as you open it. That's what it's like sometimes when you open your front door in the middle of summer. Sort of puts you off doing anything outside and not wanting to go outside as well, if, unless you have to. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to go out. Obviously, you've got AC in your home, in your car, probably in your place of work, so you don't feel it that way. But it does get really, really hot. And also our air quality sometimes can be quite poor as well. We get some dust storms, and if you suffer from asthma, that could also affect you. With the summer, I also got kidney stones in my first year. I wasn't used to having to stay hydrated, and I wasn't feeling like I was thirsty because I wasn't in, if I was in a humid environment, maybe I would have felt it more. Maybe I would have felt sweating more, but I didn't. Wasn't drinking enough water, and I ended up with a real bad pain. It was actually on my right side. I felt like something was going to explode. That's actually what I said to my wife. And funny story, but where we used to live was across the street from a hospital, and I told her, you need to call me an ambulance, and she refused to call me an ambulance. She said I should just walk. If you've had kidney stones, you'll know that was never going to happen. I mean, I was going from bedroom to bathroom, just trying to get the pain to stop. So I got an Uber, and luckily it wasn't such a big kidney stone, and when it passed, it didn't really cause me too much pain. But I remember when I was there, the triage nurse told me that because I've had it once, there's always a chance that it's going to come back, and make sure I'm drinking water. So right next to me now, I have a big bottle of water, and I try and stay hydrated even in the winter just to keep those good habits coming in. So definitely be aware of kidney stones. And then also the winters get quite cold, and sometimes that gets overlooked. They do get quite chilly, especially, if you're in some of the other parts of the city that are closer to the mountains, it's going to feel a bit colder as well. Obviously, if you're moving from the East Coast and places like that, then you're not going to feel like it is cold compared to what you're used to. But I can tell you on a cold day, and when the wind just whips through you, it can be very, very cold. Even I can feel it's cold sometimes. So definitely the winters can be catching, and those winds get really strong as well. And then we have a monsoon season, so sometimes it will rain quite heavily, quite quickly. You get a lot of surface water, so that's just some things to remember about our weather. The next con is going to be the high sales tax. We talked about all of the great things from a tax point of view within the area, but also our tax can be quite high on the sales end. It's about 8.39%, I think, about 8.4%. Groceries are exempt, but any other purchases are going to have that high sales tax. So yes, we have some great benefits from our tax, but for some people, they find our sales tax is quite high. Again, it's going to be specific to where you're moving from, because you could be looking at that thinking, oh my gosh, 8.4%. I would love that. It's a lot higher where we are right now. Other people are going to be thinking, oh my gosh, that's so high on every single purchase. You just got to weigh it up. Obviously, if you're in the casino and you're betting as well, your winnings are going to be taxed. So bear that in mind as well. If you do strike it rich, also our state is also going to strike it rich, hence why we have all of those tax breaks. But I think for some people, the sales tax can be a bit off-putting, but you get used to it. You just adjust and you get used to it, is what I can say. The next con is going to be public transport. I sort of touched on it briefly within the future growth and development. And I think there needs to be a lot of development done on our public transport because, quite frankly, it sucks. It's almost non-existent. In fact, it is non-existent if you're living in certain neighborhoods. It really can make getting around town very hard if you are relying on public transport. I used to work with someone in Starbucks and she lived in Henderson and worked in Henderson. But because she had to get two buses, I think it was, and sometimes the bus would be late on the change, and then she'd be waiting. Sometimes she could be like nearly an hour late for work, and it's ridiculous. Like a city this size and this developed, the public transport just isn't sufficient, if you ask me. If you're getting around the central areas, around the Strip and downtown, probably is going to be easier. But if you're moving here and you don't have a car or you haven't learned to drive, it's going to be very, very hard. And a lot of our neighborhoods are not really that walkable. There's certain parts of town that can be walkable. Green Valley Ranch is definitely one of them. Some parts of Summerlin can also be quite walkable if you're closer to the local amenities. But the majority of Vegas and Henderson is not really walkable to the likes of your grocery store, to the likes of your gym and doctors and those sort of things. So if you're moving here and you don't have access to drive, or you don't have someone to drive you like my wife does with me driving, it might be a bit hard to get around. And with that, sometimes you can feel a bit stranded as well. And you don't want to always feel that stranded feeling where you're living. So if you're thinking you can move here and rely on public transport because where you live at the moment has fantastic public transport, or you've been here on vacation and used the public transport because you were staying in a central location, honestly, if you're going to be living in one of the nicer parts of town, one of the great neighborhoods that I mentioned in some of my other videos, then I think public transport is going to let you down dramatically, to put it lightly. But hopefully in the future it does continue to develop and get better. But right now that does seem quite a far way. The next con, and again it ties in with the growth and development, the flip side of that is there's just constant construction. Always construction going on the roads. Sometimes the cones will be up for days and you won't see any work going on, and you're cutting all of the traffic down to one lane. Could be on the freeway. Some of our freeways at the moment have some construction going on. During Formula One, it was a nightmare with all the construction going on. And just in general, there's a lot of construction going on in the city, in all parts of the city. Really, there's some construction going on. As I said, there's always those cones going up. And it can get frustrating when obviously I have to spend a lot of time on the roads driving from what I do for my business. And it can get very frustrating when you're driving, and then you just suddenly hit that congestion because there's construction going on and obviously the lanes are being cut down. So, and also sometimes a lot of the road accidents seem to happen in construction zones as well. So that's also another bugbear. But in general, I think it's definitely a con for me, is the construction that's going on is just making everything feel a bit more congested at times than what it really is. So yeah, chalk that one up as a con. The next con about living in Vegas and Henderson is going to be HOAs. Some of the HOAs can be quite expensive. They can also, there's some bad apples that maybe get involved in your business a little bit too much. And in general, I know some of you don't really want to live in a HOA community. Now, there are benefits to living in HOA communities, and the good ones are there to actually protect the values of the property within the community, but there are some HOAs that are not so good, and some HOAs that really do get a bit too involved in your business. I'm not going to name and shame anyone on this video, but definitely feel free to reach out to me if you want some from my own personal experiences. I can definitely let you know what parts of town they were in. Or we can also discuss individual prices if you know an area of town that you're looking at. We can always have that conversation offline and I can sort of go through the HOA. I won't be able to get you access to the CCNRs, but that's also an important part of the process. And when you do have your offer accepted, then we will get a copy of the CCNRs, and that will sort of tell you your restrictions and what you've got to do, what your payments are, what you can and can't do, what everything about the HOA. And if it's not included in there, they can't really tell you to do anything about it in the future unless there's an amendment done to that. And obviously you'll have the statement sent to you which tells you about how much cash flow they have and where the plans for that money to go is. In general, HOA communities do look a lot nicer than non-HOA communities. Not all of them look like they are in cookie cutter, sorry. not so easy for me to say, cookie cutter homes as well. Some of the HOAs do have homes that look different, substantially different, and then others, everything has to be uniform. So no HOA is the same. If you've had a bad experience from a HOA, don't think it's going to be the same here. Likewise, if you've had a good experience with a HOA, don't think it's going to be the same here as well, because there are some that do give the HOAs a bad name, and some of the prices can be quite high, especially when you have a master plan fee and a sub-association fee. I think the average HOA cost is around about $200 if I'm being completely honest. And then obviously if you're in a condo or townhome, sometimes it's a bit more than that because it obviously includes a lot more. And if you've got a gym, pool, and those sort of things as well, that puts up the price. But in general, I think HOAs here can be a con. It can also be a pro. I sort of weighed putting it on both sides, but for me, at the moment, I'm going to put it down as a con. The next con for me is going to be, there's not really a huge sense of community. There are certain parts of town that do have some great sense of community. I think Inspirada has it, I think Cadence, I think Sky Canyon, I think parts of Summerlin also can have it as well. But then there's other parts where I just feel like there's just no sense of community whatsoever, where you'd have neighbors and you probably wouldn't even talk to them. So it depends on what you're looking for. Some people want that, some people don't want to be talking to their neighbors all the time, and I respect that if that is what you're looking for. And other people want to have a sense of community and feel like they're part of a community. And that's why it's always important to reach out. You can reach out on the details below. I can talk to you about what's important to you. And if you say, hey, Pilar, I want to feel like there's a community. I want to live somewhere where there is a community. I can make sure that we're only looking at those communities. If you don't want that, you can also tell me that. And I can make sure I take those communities off the table because it's going to feel completely different. But that's also why it's always important to try and do a little discovery tour. And I can give you a list of places to go and check out in many of the communities, and you can use them and do a drive-through of all of those communities, and then you'll get a feel for what they're like, because the community and the area is going to be the most important part of the whole process. Finding the home should come after finding the right neighborhood and the area. You can always change things in your home if it's not right at the start. Over time, you can always change it. You can't really change the community and everything that goes into your local neighborhood. So definitely, I think that lack of a sense of community from a personal perspective. Also, that's probably why we're looking to move to Inspirada, because that's one of the areas of town that really does have a great community feeling. But for the most part, I think that's definitely a big con. The next con is going to be the hard water. I mean, our water is probably the hardest, if not the hardest, and definitely the second or third hardest in the whole country. And it's like the concentration of the minerals. It's not the drinking water. Obviously, I would advise drinking. I would say don't drink from the faucets. You can get little things that will filter your water, or you can obviously have it connected to your refrigerator and you can drink it from there as well, because it's going to be filtered. But aside from that, the hard water is going to affect things like your piping, your plumbing. It's going to affect your faucets and the buildup of all the lime scale. It's going to affect your skin when you're showering in hard water. You feel it more on your skin. Your skin can probably get a bit more irritated from it. It's going to affect your hair. It affected my wife's hair. Affects your clothing. When you're putting it in the washing machine, it sort of loses its vibrancy. And in general, it's just not great with the hard water. And I would advise you, if you are buying a home, if it doesn't come with a water softener, then I'd advise going to get one. You can probably get one in most hardware stores, including getting it fitted. Is probably going to be maybe around about $3,000 to $5,000 for the unit and having it installed. If you know someone who can get it installed cheaper for you, if you know someone who's handy with plumbing, then it's not going to be as expensive. But roughly budget around $3,000 to $5,000, and then you just need to top it up with salts or pellets, whatever system it uses. And honestly, once you've done that, you won't ever look back, and you'll definitely thank me if you do it and you've had both sides. If you've had hard water and then you have it once it's soft, you'll definitely thank me for reminding you. And I also try to remind those of you who are moving here when we're getting closer to the end of escrow. I always try and remind you as well, and we've had this conversation, I always try and remind you, maybe look at getting a water softener in time, because it's definitely a worthwhile investment. So the hard water here is definitely a con, but it can be alleviated by just getting a water softener. The next con is going to be the limited healthcare options. Healthcare in general in Vegas gets a real bad reputation, similar to our school district. And I think, again, it's sort of an issue that can be alleviated. There's no denying there's some really bad providers, and I've had my own personal experience with bad providers. When my baby was born nearly 3 years ago, she was born jaundice, and the pediatrician we had at the time was telling my wife baby was only 2 days old or so at this point. It was telling my wife that, oh, all the baby needs is to drink water. Just give her water to drink. I didn't have a clue, but thankfully my wife knew that you shouldn't ever give a newborn baby water, that really they should only be drinking milk, certainly at that age of infancy. I'm sure there's a lot of parents out there shaking their heads that a pediatrician would even recommend that. Well, when my wife denied that and said, no, we're not going to do that, and then also denied to go and get the test done that he was ordering in a lab where COVID was being tested at that point, obviously you wouldn't want your newborn baby to be tested in the same place people are going to be checked for COVID. He threatened to call CPS and say we were neglecting to care for her, which was scandalous. Luckily, we moved her to a new pediatrician, and the pediatrician we're in now is amazing. And especially if you're living in the Henderson area and you're looking for a good pediatrician, I can't recommend them high enough. So let me know, drop me an email or a text and I'll let you know their names and give you their contact details so you can also utilize them. And that's the thing, there are really bad healthcare options in the city, but there's some amazing healthcare options as well. Sometimes you just have to be prepared to travel. And that's what I think is the issue here with our healthcare. I think the access to good healthcare can be quite difficult because sometimes you have to travel the other side of town. My wife travels 20 minutes to get to her primary care. We travel maybe 20 minutes to the southwest of Vegas to go to the kids' dentist because we had to really find a good one. And when you find a good one, then you'll stay with them. If you're expecting to find great medical options, whatever community you live in, I think that's where the disappointment's going to be. And sometimes access to like specialists as well, depending on where you live in, you might have to travel a little bit further. But I think there are some really great healthcare options here. I mean, I'm happy in my primary care. I'm happy in my dentist, although I've got a dentist phobia. I'm still happy in my dentist, and the kids' ones as well are really good. But we have to do that research and we have to find them, and then we have to be prepared to travel to them as well. If you are prepared to travel though, absolutely you're going to find good ones here. The final con is going to be the bugs and the wildlife. We don't have so many really ridiculous bugs like some places, but we do have quite a lot of different spiders. We have scorpions. I had a friend who fell asleep on a couch and he had a scorpion sting him on his chest. I know someone in Mountain's Edge who had a scorpion issue in their backyard as well. So they are there. Obviously that can be all alleviated by good pest control, whether you get someone to come out, quarterly, monthly, whatever you need, or you can also do it yourself and treat your areas yourself as well. Mostly though, there's spiders, there's going to be ants, there's going to be scorpions. But that's probably as bad as it gets. As you get closer to the mountains, maybe there can be some desert snakes as well. But certainly in the more, cosmopolitan areas, in the more built up areas, there's probably less likelihood of running into a snake. If you're out in the mountains hiking, then maybe you'll definitely see some. And then we do have a bit of a coyote issue as well, and they're getting closer and closer and closer. And if you've got cats, if you've got, definitely small animals, if you've got small children, obviously it can be definitely a worry. I read somewhere something crazy that I remember there was a video of some woman, I think it was in Lake Las Vegas, feeding coyotes with a donut, which, I think she was a bit of a donut for doing that, if I'm being honest, because that's just going to, make them feel like they can rely on humans to feed them, but also just going to attract them to those areas, which isn't good for people living in those areas, and also isn't good for the coyotes either. So don't be alarmed if you do see coyotes. They're definitely all over Henderson. I've seen them many times driving, even in the daytime, they're in the middle of the road sometimes. So don't be alarmed if you see them. And with the scorpions and spiders, if you just treat everything with your pest control, then you're fine. Sometimes in apartment complexes and condo complexes as well. And also if you're living next to a dirty neighbor, maybe there could be an issue with roaches. So again, just good pest control is going to help with that. But other than that, really, that's all that we seem to have. We don't have any real mosquitoes or anything like that to worry about. So if you can put up with those things, then it's not going to be too bad at all. And that's it, guys. That's a rundown of the pros and cons of living in Las Vegas. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you have, please give it a like. Also, drop me a comment and let me know what your biggest takeaway from it was. If if it's helped you with something, or if there's a big pro or con that you hadn't considered, let me know what that was down in the comment below. And also, if you haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe. I would love you to help me get to 1,000 subscribers. It's one of my burning ambitions at the moment. It seems to take its time, but we are getting there. So if you can help me get there, that'll be fantastic. And then just one final reminder, if you are thinking about moving to Las Vegas or Henderson, please get in touch. You can give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. All my details are down there below. However you're comfortable, whenever you're ready, and I would really love to help you on your move here. 100%, it's what I love to do. Until the next time, guys, thank you for watching. You take care.